Welcome to Week 1, Day 2 of our e-learning lessons. Today we are going to be reviewing our performance task, going over our essential questions, and then going over the assignments that need to be completed for today's lessons. Performance task. I will need to be able to summarize a text by using key details to support the important events and parts. Also, I will need to be able to identify the main idea within the text and use key details to support my answers. The performance task is what our assignment should be on Friday. What is the final thing we need to be able to do to complete these lessons that we've been working on for 5 days? Our essential questions are focused on what can we do today to get ready for that performance task? How can I determine what key details are within the biography? How can I paraphrase key details in notes and in my answers? Today we're going to start by reading the first 4 pages of the biography. As we're reading the first 4 pages, I want you to take time to take notes based on what you've read. And as we're taking notes, our important thing that we're looking at is usually the dates that are labeled within the biography. If an author gives us dates, they're giving us a big clue that that date is important, and they're going to tell us why that date is important. So in your note taking, write down the date, and then also tell why that date is important. So on your assignment in page 5, you're going to be working on this part of your note-taking. Sacagawea by Lisa Erdrich, illustrated by Julie Buffalohead. It is the early 1800s. Teenage Sacagawea is a Shoshone Indian living in the Knife River villages in what is now North Dakota. When she was a child, Hidatsa Indians kidnapped her from her home in the Rocky Mountains. Since then, she has lived with them on the Great Plains, far from her family. Sacagawea has learned many things from the Hidatsa Indians, including how to grow food. She is now married to a French-Canadian fur trapper named Toussaint Charbonnet. Meanwhile, Captains Meriwether Lewis and William Clark have been preparing for the Corps of Discovery. They and their team, which includes a large black Newfoundland dog, are about to start a long journey of exploration all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And that takes us into today's lesson where we're going to be focusing. On our lesson today, I want to really focus on those key important dates. What are the dates for our note-taking, and why are those dates so important? On May 14th, 1804, a crew member of more than 40 men set off against the Missouri River current in a keelboat and 2 large canoes called piraguas. The Corps of Discovery was on the way. As you're looking at this first paragraph, there is a date located May 14th, 1804. In your notes, take a short moment to write down May 14th, 1804. And I want you to think about, why is this date so important? The expedition arrived at the Knife River villages at the end of October. They were greeted with great excitement. Sacagawea heard tales of a gigantic black dog that traveled with the explorers. She heard that a fierce and awesome white man with black skin was among the crew. This was York, the slave of Captain Clark. If I'm taking my notes, this paragraph also gives me another important piece of information. In the text on that paragraph, it says October. I know it's the year of 1804. It did not give me the date, but it did give me a month, and I already know the year. So in October 1804 would be my next assignment on my note-taking. Why is October 1804 so important? If you need to, go back and reread the second paragraph and determine, why is this information important for your note-taking. The explorers built a fort and called it Fort Mandan. They were settled in to spend the winter at the Knife River villages. Lewis and Clark soon learned they would need horses to cross the Rocky Mountains. The people of the villages told them they could get the horses from the Shoshone when the expedition reached the mountain passes. The wily Charbonnet proposed that they hire him as a guide and interpreter. He did not speak Shoshone, but Sacagawea did. He told her they would be joining the Corps of Discovery in the spring. This was exciting news, but Sacagawea's mind was on other matters. She was soon to become a mother. On that page we just read, talking about Charbonnet, I noticed that the author used the key word wily. Wily is not a word that we normally give someone in a positive way. Wily means cunning, deceptive, sneaky, tricky, kind of like something we don't want to be associated with. So I'm already getting a feeling that our author doesn't really seem to like Charbonnet. In February, the time came for Sacagawea to have her baby. It was a long, difficult birth. Captain Lewis wanted to help her. He gave a crew member 2 rattlesnake rattles to crush and mix with water. Just a few minutes after drinking the mixture, Sacagawea gave birth to a baby boy. He was named Jean-Baptiste Charbonnet. Captain Clark called him Pompey. Before long, the boy was known to everyone as Pomp. Looking back at the beginning of the paragraph we just read, February. If I think about how our text has been moving along, from May 1804, October 1804, and now we're hitting February. So thinking about February, it would not be 1804, but the date now turns over to 1805. So on my note-taking guide, I need to write February 1805. Go back and read that first paragraph on page 592 and determine why that date is important to the text. On April 7th, 1805, the Corps of Discovery started west, struggling upstream on the mighty, muddy Missouri in 2 piraguas and 6 smaller canoes. Pomp was not yet 2 months old yet. As Sacagawea walked along the riverbanks, she carried Pomp on her back in a cradle board or wrapped up snug in her shawl. Every member of the Corps of Discovery was hired for a special skill: hunter, blacksmith, woodsman, sailor. As an interpreter, Charbonnet was paid much more than the other crew members, but his skills as a sailor, guide, and outdoorsman were very poor. The only thing he did well was cook buffalo sausage. Think back to the comment that was mentioned, wily Charbonnet. Being sneaky, being cunning, being untrustworthy, being deceptive. If we know that he already lied about being a hunter, about being a sailor, about being a guide, an outdoorsman, he can't do any of them well. And we already know he doesn't speak Shoshone. The only one who does is Sacagawea. Sacagawea did what she could to help the expeditions, even though she was paid nothing. As she walked along the shore with Captain Clark, Sacagawea looked for plants to keep the crew healthy. She gathered berries or dug for wild artichoke roots with her digging stick. Her Shoshone childhood prepared her well for this journey. The Corps had been traveling less than 2 months when near disaster struck. Charbonnet was steering a boat through choppy waters when a sudden high wind tipped it sideways. He lost his wits and dropped the rudder while the boat filled with water. The expedition's valuables were spilling overboard. Charbonnet was ordered to right the boat or be shot. Now we remember talking about Charbonnet, about being wily, being sneaky, being deceptive, untrustworthy. His job is to sail the boat. We already know he can't sail. He's not a great sailor, but yet they're putting him in charge of driving the boat and taking care of everyone and everything on it. Now the boat's halfway sinking. The supplies are floating off. Lewis and Clark seem a little frustrated with him, to the point where they're saying, if you can't fix it, we're going to shoot you. As we continue reading, Sacagawea stayed calm and rescued the captain's important things: journals, gunpowder, medicines, scientific instruments, even every bundle she could reach. Without these supplies, the expedition would not have continued. A few days later, they came to a beautiful river. The grateful captains named it after Sacagawea. So based on the first 4 pages we've read today, our assignment is going to be looking at your questions. You just finished your note-taking, so on day 2 questions, We're going to go back in the text and find text-dependent answers and go back and support what each question is asking. On question 1, how had the core discovery been traveling so far? So that's the first part of the question. Think about what way this group has been traveling and think about if it's been easier or harder or kind of like a normal exploration for them. The second part of the question. They needed horses when they reached the mountains. What does this tell you about the country ahead of him? Why do they need horses? What kind of land are they going to be crossing with these horses? Go back in the text and find good details. Question number 2. Why do you think having an interpreter was important for the core? Think about what Charbonneau said he can do as an interpreter. Think about who they're going to meet around the mountains. This information is going to help you with question 2. As we look at question 3, why was Sacagawea important to the expedition? There's 4 or 5 different answers you can give for this question, but I want to make sure you pick an answer that fits what you're thinking is best about. So think about why she was so important. Question 4. Charbonneau was described as witty, wily, and cunning. Why was he described as wily? In what ways is he proven to be wily? Remember, sneaky, tricky, untrustworthy. Give a specific example from the text that shows that he is being wily in this text. For questions 5 and 6, why do you think the success of the expedition depended upon having the supplies that the author mentions? So go back in the text and figure out why is the journal important, the medicine, the gunpowder, the scientific instruments. You need to read the entire text to get a full understanding for question 5. Question 6. Do you think the captains recognize that Sacagawea is more valuable to the expedition than her husband? What is the text evidence? You need to either say yes, she's more valuable than her husband and tell me why, or no, she is not more valuable than her husband and tell me why. You do have a short coloring sheet that you may color about Sacagawea, and then also make sure you take time to read the information that's located at the bottom, some more facts and information about Sacagawea. Near the bottom, you have Day 2 exit ticket. Understanding story sequence. In this assignment, you're going to read the story below, and I need you to pay very good attention to the events that are happening in the story, and you need to make sure you put them in order at the bottom by using 1 for it happened first, 2 it happened next, and all the way down to 6, which it was the last event that happened. As you're reading Cameron, the relay machine, you need to pay very close attention to the details. Think about the order that these details are happening. Make sure you write those events by putting a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Once you have finished the assignment, you need to make sure you take time to do your assignment for today's lesson. And the assignment at the end of the lesson that you need to work on is with those spelling or those words we need to know. I want to make sure you take time to practice writing them in ABC order. And then the guided reading time will be the books that are located on Mayan for you to work on. There's some books already located on Mayan for you for each day of the week. Take time to look at those books. You may read them. If there's other books you'd like to read, please feel free to do so. Our independent reading time is you may read a book by yourself, not on the computer, but a real hardcover book. Or you may grab a book or a magazine and ask an adult or brother or sister, can you read to them? So make sure you take time to do that. And then also, you do have your iReady reading and iReady math minutes you can work on as well. If you have any questions about Day 2's assignment from Week 1's e-learning, please message me, or you may respond back to our EDSB lessons. Thank you very much.